Before we begin this video, please comment below the country you are watching from. With your help, we can spread the message of Allah and the Prophet across all nations. There's a claim that refuses to die, a phrase repeated in documentaries, political debates, and comedy shows. Muslim martyrs are promised 72 virgins in paradise. It's quoted in headlines, mocked in satire, and twisted by violent extremists as a recruiting slogan. But what if we told you that this claim is not in the Quran? What if the idea of 72 virgins is a distortion ripped from context based on a weak narration and misunderstood by both critics and followers alike? Let's take a moment to unpack the myth carefully, factually, and respectfully. First, we must ask the core question: where does this claim come from? If you open the Quran, the central text of Islam, you will not find a single verse promising 72 virgins to anyone. Not to the pious, not to martyrs, not to believers of any kind. The Quran speaks of paradise in broad poetic language, filled with rivers, gardens, light, peace, and eternal joy. It speaks of companions of purity known as Hoor al-Ain, but without assigning them a number. The descriptions are symbolic, emphasizing purity, reward, and nearness to God. Yet somewhere along the line, this idea of 72 virgins became synonymous with Islam's vision of the afterlife. So where did it come from? The answer lies not in the Quran, but in Hadith literature, a collection of sayings attributed to the Prophet Muhammad compiled after his death. Among thousands of these narrations, a single one found in Sunan al-Tirmidhi mentions that a martyr will be granted 72 wives from among the Hoor. That narration says the martyr will have 6 things with Allah, and he will be married to 72 wives from the Hoor al-Ain. But here's where the facts matter. This hadith is weak da'if, meaning its chain of transmission has questionable reliability. In Islamic scholarship, a weak hadith cannot be used to establish doctrine, especially something as significant as the reward for martyrs. Even if we accepted it as authentic, which many scholars do not, the hadith does not imply that martyrdom is about sexual reward. That's a dangerous and shallow interpretation. The Prophet, PBUH, emphasized that true martyrdom is about defending justice, protecting the innocent, standing firm in the path of truth, even if it costs your life. In fact, when the Prophet, PBUH, described paradise, he said, "In it is what no eye has seen, no ear has heard, and what the heart has never imagined." Sahih Bukhari and Muslim. So whatever descriptions we find, rivers of milk, golden goblets, or companions with radiant eyes, these are metaphors, illustrations, previews of something far greater than human language can express. Yet the 72 virgins idea continues to spread. Why? Because it's easy to sensationalize, because extremists use it to brainwash the young and vulnerable, and because critics use it to dehumanize an entire religion. The tragedy is this: something that was never central to Islam, something not even reliably attributed to the Prophet, has become a global talking point, often used to justify hatred or violence on both sides. Islamic scholars, both classical and modern, have repeatedly clarified this issue, that paradise is not about lust, but about spiritual fulfillment, that the Quran's descriptions are symbols, not transactions, and that Allah's ultimate reward is His nearness, not sensual pleasure. In fact, both men and women in Islam are promised the same thing in paradise. Whoever does righteousness, whether male or female, while being a believer, we will surely cause them to live a good life. Quran 1697. So let's come back to the real question. Did Allah promise 72 virgins to martyrs? No, not in the Quran. And the hadith that mentions it is disputed and not a core part of Islamic belief. What Islam teaches is much deeper, much more beautiful. A life lived for truth, a death with dignity, and a paradise that no human mind can fully comprehend. It's time we stop reducing Islam to sound bites. Time we stop letting myths define our understanding, because the truth is more powerful and far more sacred. When it comes to the idea of 72 virgins, it's important to start at the foundation of Islamic belief, the Quran. the direct word of Allah revealed to the Prophet Muhammad over 23 years. And the truth is simple, clear, and undeniable. The Quran does not mention 72 virgins anywhere. There is not a single verse that assigns a number to the companions of paradise. Not 72, not 70, not any fixed amount. That detail, which has gained such worldwide notoriety, is entirely absent from Islam's holiest book. Instead, the Quran describes paradise known in Arabic as Jannah, using rich symbolic and deeply spiritual imagery. The focus isn't on carnal pleasure, but on eternal peace, purity, and the presence of Allah. Let's look at what the Quran actually says. In Surah Al-Waqi'ah 56:22-24, we read, "And there will be Hoor, like hidden pearls, as a reward for what they used to do." The term Hoor al-Ain appears in multiple places in the Quran. It is often translated as pure companions, or companions with beautiful eyes. The root word Hoor refers to brightness and contrast, especially of the eyes, while Ain is a plural term that denotes wide or expressive eyes. But this is where caution is needed. The Quran uses poetic imagery to describe paradise because it deals with a realm beyond human experience. These are not literal material promises, but divinely constructed metaphors meant to convey beauty, peace, companionship, and reward in a language that the human mind can grasp. In Surah Ar-Rahman 55:56, Allah says, "In them are women limiting their glances, untouched before them by man or jinn." In Arabic rhetoric, this phrase emphasizes modesty, loyalty, and spiritual intimacy, not lust or fantasy. It is a depiction of tranquil, faithful companionship, far removed from the sexualized interpretations often imposed by modern audiences. Also, in Surah Ad-Dukhan 44:51-54, we find, "Indeed, the righteous will be in a secure place, among gardens and springs, wearing garments of fine silk and brocade, facing each other, and we will marry them to companions with beautiful eyes, Hoor." Again, the reward is described in a collective, peaceful setting, a space of harmony and contentment. But crucially, across all these verses, no number is ever mentioned. No 72, no quota, and no sensual exchange. This is not an oversight, it is intentional, because the Quran's focus isn't on how many companions you receive in paradise. It is on who you become to deserve such mercy. Moreover, the greatest reward in paradise, according to both the Quran and Hadith, is not physical at all. It is the privilege of seeing the face of Allah. This is an unimaginable spiritual joy reserved for those who live their lives in faith and obedience. As the Quran states, "For those who have done good is the best reward, and even more." Surah Yunus 10:26. Scholars and the Prophet, PBUH himself, explained that this "even more" refers to the honor of gazing upon the divine countenance, a moment so radiant it makes every other joy of paradise seem. Many classical scholars interpret "even more" to mean the beatific vision of Allah, the highest reward of all. So, when the Quran speaks of paradise, it speaks of eternal gardens, rivers of milk and honey, peace with no sorrow, companionship with the righteous, forgiveness, and nearness to Allah. For both men and women, as long as they lived in righteousness, Allah promises, there they shall have whatever they desire, and with us is more. Surah Qaf 50:35. This verse is powerful. Whatever they desire. It means that the joys of paradise are custom fitted to each believer, far surpassing any worldly metaphor. The Quran never promises 72 virgins. What it does promise is far greater, a realm of eternal fulfillment, peace, and spiritual elevation. Any focus on physicality or numerical rewards misses the point entirely, because Jannah is not about quantity, it is about divine mercy, and that, in the words of the Quran, is a success beyond imagination. So, if the Quran doesn't mention 72 virgins, where did this number originate? The answer lies not in the Quran, but in Hadith literature. the collected sayings and reports of the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH. While his companions preserved these accounts, they were meticulously compiled by later scholars. Today, these texts serve as a major source of Islamic guidance, second only to the Quran. Narrated by Al-Miqdam bin Ma'di Karib, may Allah be pleased with him. The Messenger of Allah said, "The martyr has 6 blessings with Allah. 1. He is forgiven with the first drop of his blood. 2. He is shown his seat in paradise. 3. He is protected from the punishment of the grave. 4. He is safe from the greatest terror on the day of judgment. 5. The crown of dignity is placed upon his head, a single ruby of which is better than the world and all that is in it. 6. He is married to 72 wives from among the wide-eyed maidens, Al-Hoor al-Ain, and he may intercede for 70 of his relatives." Jami' at-Tirmidhi, Hadith 1663. The narration mentioning 72 companions is often quoted when describing the rewards of paradise. However, it is important to understand this topic with clarity and balance. This is one of the few narrations where a specific number is mentioned, but Islamic scholars have explained that such descriptions should not be taken in isolation or as the complete picture of paradise. There are differences of opinion regarding the authenticity and interpretation of this narration. More importantly, the Quran and many authentic hadith emphasize that the rewards of paradise are beyond human imagination, far greater than any specific number or description. Paradise is not limited to physical blessings alone. It is a place of eternal peace, happiness, and closeness to Allah, which is the greatest reward of all. So rather than focusing only on numbers, the true message is to strive for righteousness, faith, and a place in paradise where the blessings will exceed anything we can ever. The narration that mentions 72 companions is widely discussed, but many scholars of hadith have classified it as weak or da'if. This classification is based on concerns about the reliability of its chain of transmission. In the science of hadith, every narration is carefully examined. Not all are accepted equally. Scholars analyze the continuity of the chain, the character and memory of the narrators, and whether the content aligns with stronger established sources. In this case, the narration does not meet the strict criteria required for authenticity. Because of this, it is not considered suitable for establishing doctrine or being treated as a confirmed part of Islamic belief. More importantly, authentic Islamic teachings consistently emphasize that the rewards of paradise go far beyond specific numbers or descriptions. The true essence of paradise lies in eternal peace, fulfillment, and closeness to Allah. So rather than focusing on a single weak narration, the greater message is to strive for faith, sincerity, and righteous actions, seeking a reward that is beyond human imagination. The narration mentioning 72 companions is not universally accepted among Islamic scholars. Across different schools of thought, there is no agreement on its authenticity. Some scholars classify it as weak or even fabricated, while others interpret it symbolically rather than literally. Because of this ikhtilaf, it has never been treated as a reliable source for defining the concept of martyrdom or describing the rewards of paradise in detail. It is also important to understand that classical scholars did not place any special spiritual significance on the number 72. No major Islamic creed, whether Sunni, Shia, or otherwise, builds its understanding of the afterlife around this number. For this reason, it is not considered part of the core beliefs of Islam. The true teachings about paradise come from authentic and widely accepted sources, which emphasize that its rewards are beyond human imagination, far greater than any fixed number or limited description. So, instead of focusing on a disputed narration, the real message is to strive for faith, sincerity, and righteous actions, seeking the eternal success that Allah has promised. Even if this narration were authentic, it would still remain a minor detail, not a pillar of belief in Islam. The core tenets of the faith are firmly established through the Quran and widely transmitted, authentic Hadith. These include belief in the oneness of God, His prophets, the Day of Judgment, and the reality of the hereafter. A narration that is weak or disputed cannot override these foundational teachings or redefine the nature of paradise. Islam does not present Jannah as a reward limited to numbers or physical descriptions. Rather, it is a place of eternal peace, complete fulfillment, and above all, closeness to Allah, which is the greatest reward any soul can attain. The deeper message is clear. Focus on faith, sincerity, and righteous actions, because what awaits in the hereafter is far greater than anything we can reduce to numbers or imagination. When the Quran describes paradise, one term that often draws attention and sometimes misunderstanding is Hoor. To truly understand what this means, we need to move beyond modern stereotypes and return to the original Arabic language, along with the deeper spiritual intent behind these words. The term Hoor in the Quran refers to beings of purity, beauty, and perfection, a creation that reflects the flawless nature of paradise. However, these descriptions are not meant to be reduced to simple or purely physical interpretations. Like many descriptions of the hereafter, the Quran speaks in a way that humans can relate to, using imagery that points towards something far greater than our worldly experience. In reality, the blessings of paradise go beyond what the human mind can fully comprehend. The ultimate reward is not just companionship or comfort, but eternal peace and closeness to Allah. So when we hear terms like Hoor, the goal is not to limit their meaning, but to understand the deeper message, a glimpse into a reality that is pure, complete, and beyond imagination. Let's start with the language itself. In Arabic, the word Hoor comes from ahwar for males and hara for females. It describes someone whose eyes have a striking contrast, intensely white sclera with deep, dark irises. In classical Arabic, this wasn't about ethnicity or physical sensuality. It was a poetic symbol of beauty, purity, and clarity. The word is the plural of ayan, referring to wide, expressive eyes, a timeless sign of charm and radiance in Arabic expression. So together, Hoor al-Ain reflects an image of luminous beauty and purity, not the simplistic or distorted meanings often assumed today. When combined, the phrase Hoor al-Ain refers to beings of exquisite symbolic beauty, created as companions in paradise. But here's the crucial point. These descriptions are not primarily physical or sexual, as they are often portrayed. The idea of 72 virgins, widely repeated in media and pop culture, is a simplified, and in many cases misleading, interpretation. The Quran itself does not use this phrase to define Hoor. Instead, it emphasizes qualities like purity, serenity, and companionship. The focus is not on desire, but on peace, harmony, and a form of beauty that is both spiritual and refined. In Surah Al-Waqiyah, verses 22 to 24, the Quran describes Hoor al-Ain as being like hidden pearls, a reward for what people used to do. This imagery is deeply symbolic. Hidden pearls are not a sensual image. They represent modesty, purity, and immense value, something untouched, protected, and honored. In classical Arab culture, pearls were a symbol of elegance and rarity, mahfuz, treasured and carefully guarded. So this description is not about physical allure alone, but about dignity, beauty, and a refined sense of worth. According to many respected scholars, both classical and modern, the descriptions of Hoor al-Ain carry layers of meaning, some understood literally and others symbolically. Abu Hamid al-Ghazali explained that paradise is a reality beyond human imagination and cannot be fully described using worldly analogies. Similarly, Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah wrote that the rewards of paradise are presented in forms we can begin to understand, but their true essence is far greater than anything we have experienced. So these descriptions are not limitations. They are invitations, guiding the human mind toward a reality that ultimately transcends transcends it. Contemporary scholars like Umar Farouk Abdallah and Ingrid Mattson emphasize that these descriptions carry deeper, allegorical meanings and should not be reduced to purely physical interpretations. They remind us that the ultimate reward of paradise is nearness to Allah, a closeness that surpasses every other blessing. Everything else described is part of that greater reality, symbolic expressions of joy, fulfillment, and peace for both men and women. And here's a point that is often overlooked. The rewards of paradise in Islam are not limited by gender. In Surah An-Nahl, 1697, Allah says, "Whoever does righteousness, whether male or female, while being a believer, we will surely grant them a good life." And in paradise, both men and women are promised complete fulfillment. The Quran repeatedly emphasizes this. They will have whatever they wish therein, and with us is even more. Surah Qaf, 50:35. This makes it clear. Paradise is a place of perfect justice, balance, and limitless reward for every soul. So whether someone longs for companionship, peace, knowledge, or closeness to Allah, they will find it in paradise. In summary, Hoor al-In are not about desire or numbers. They represent divine grace, purity, and eternal reward. Part of the beauty of paradise, tailored to the hearts of those who believed and strove. When reduced to mere physical interpretations, their meaning becomes limited. But when understood as signs of Allah's generosity, their depth becomes truly profound. Over time, the idea of 72 virgins has taken on a life of its own, often in ways that distort its original context. What is sometimes traced back to certain narrations, with varying interpretations and discussions among scholars, has been simplified into a single, widely repeated claim. This simplification has then been used by both critics and extremists to misrepresent Islam's vision of paradise. In reality, the Quranic description of paradise is far more profound, emphasizing spiritual fulfillment, peace, and nearness to Allah over any narrow or literal interpretation. It's important to clarify, the Quran does not mention 72 virgins. Mainstream Islamic scholarship does not present sensual reward as the goal of martyrdom or faith. Instead, the concept of paradise and sacrifice in Islam is understood as something far deeper, a reality rooted in spiritual fulfillment, divine mercy, and closeness to Allah. A vision that is not simplistic, but profoundly meaningful. Extremist groups such as ISIS and Al-Qaeda have taken this idea and misused it in harmful ways. They have built recruitment narratives that target vulnerable individuals, presenting a distorted promise that martyrdom guarantees specific physical rewards. But this is a clear misrepresentation of Islamic teachings. The concept of paradise in Islam is not built on such simplistic or material promises, but on faith, sincerity, and closeness to Allah. In Islam, suicide is strictly forbidden, and martyrdom is not something you choose through violence. It's something Allah grants to those who defend justice, truth, and the oppressed, often at the cost of their lives. Prophet Muhammad described the martyr as someone who dies defending his home or family, is killed protecting others from harm, stands for justice in the face of tyranny. Martyrdom is not about killing others. It's about sacrificing yourself for righteousness. The extremists have twisted this into something Islam never taught. And sadly, many of their victims are Muslims themselves, both physically and ideologically. On the other side, Western media has often taken this myth and turned it into a punchline, or worse, a smear. Documentaries, cartoons, talk shows, and news panels have repeatedly exaggerated the 72 virgins narrative to paint Muslims as people obsessed with sex, violence, and death. This is not education. It's not journalism. It's mockery. By focusing on a fringe idea taken from a weak hadith, media outlets have ignored the rich moral and ethical teachings of Islam. They've reduced a profound spiritual tradition to a stereotype. This contributes to Islamophobia, feeds fear and ignorance, and alienates the very Muslims who suffer under extremism the most. Lastly, the 72 Virgins claim is frequently used by Islam's critics, especially online, to ridicule Muslim beliefs. They throw it into debates, meme it, use it to label all Muslims as backward or sexually driven. But here's the truth: most Muslims around the world have never even heard this hadith, let alone consider it part of their faith. Their understanding of paradise is shaped by the Quran's emphasis on peace, justice, and divine mercy, not a fantasy number. The Prophet taught that the highest reward in paradise is not physical pleasure, but something much deeper. The people of paradise will see their Lord, Sahih Muslim. That's the real destination. Not 72 companions, but a closeness to the one who created you. To truly understand the reality behind the 72 Virgins' claim, we must turn to those who have dedicated their lives to studying Islam. The scholars, from classical jurists to modern academics, Islamic scholars across centuries, have consistently emphasized two key truths: that the hadith mentioning 72 virgins is weak and not foundational to belief, that the true theology of paradise in Islam is rooted in spiritual, not sensual reward. Let's break this down. First, let's recall that the hadith mentioning 72 virgins is found in Jami at Tirmidhi, narrated by Al-Mikdum ibn Mardikarib. It's been classified as da'if, weak, by multiple respected scholars of hadith, such as Imam Nawawi, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, and many contemporary hadith critics. This means its chain of narration contains gaps or unreliable transmitters, making it unsuitable for establishing creed aqidah in Islam. Belief in something must be rooted in the Quran or mutawatir hadith, mass transmitted and widely confirmed. A weak narration like this cannot be used as evidence for what awaits in the afterlife, and certainly not as the defining symbol of paradise. Across the Islamic tradition, the true focus of paradise is not carnal indulgence. It is proximity to Allah, freedom from suffering, and complete peace. Imam Ghazali, one of Islam's greatest theologians, wrote that the delights of paradise are symbolic and tailored to the soul's fulfillment. He warned against interpreting them with worldly desires in mind. Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah said that while physical pleasures may exist in paradise, the highest form of joy is the love of Allah in witnessing His face, a state beyond imagination.